Millionaire CEO helps single-father mechanic and his daughter throughout their lives. Before anything else, let's see how connected we really are. What's one thing you can see from your window right now? The Saturday morning sun streamed through the windows of Harper's Diner, casting warm golden rays across the red vinyl booths that had witnessed countless family conversations over the decades. Mike Johnson sat across from his 7-year-old daughter Emma, watching her methodically arrange her Mickey Mouse pancakes while simultaneously sketching mechanical diagrams on a napkin with the focused intensity of an engineer. And then Mrs. Henderson said my presentation on internal combustion engines was too advanced for second grade, Emma said, not looking up from her drawing as she spoke. But I explained that understanding how pistons convert linear motion to rotational motion isn't really that complicated once you see the physics. Mike's heart swelled with familiar pride and concern. Since the divorce 6 months ago, these Saturday morning breakfasts at Harper's Diner had become their sacred time together. Emma would share her week's discoveries, usually involving mechanical principles she'd absorbed from watching him work in the garage, while he marveled at how his 7-year-old daughter understood automotive systems better than most of his adult customers. "What did you tell her about the project you're working on at home?" Mike asked, referencing the elaborate contraption Emma had been designing while he assembled the components in their garage using spare parts from his shop. Emma's blue eyes sparkled with excitement as she finally looked up from her napkin sketch. "I told her it was a surprise for you. But Daddy, I think we figured out the water injection problem. The issue wasn't with the electrolysis chamber, it was with the catalyst timing." Mike nearly choked on his coffee. For 3 months, Emma had been playing with an engine project that had started as a simple father-daughter learning exercise. What began as Emma asking why cars couldn't run on water had evolved into her systematically studying hydrogen combustion, electrolysis, and advanced fuel injection systems, while Mike provided the skilled hands to build what her brilliant mind conceived. The fact that she was now casually discussing catalyst timing like a seasoned automotive engineer both amazed and worried him. "Sweetheart, remember what we talked about regarding our engine project? It's important to keep it between us for now." "I know, Daddy. You said some people might not understand, and they might try to take it away before we can show everyone how it helps the environment." Emma returned to her diagram, adding precise measurements and annotations that would impress engineering professors. "But it's working now, really working. The car ran for 47 minutes yesterday on just 2 cups of water when you helped me test it." The casual way Emma delivered this earth-shattering news made Mike's stomach drop. His daughter had actually designed a functional water-powered engine, and with his mechanical expertise to build what she envisioned, they had created revolutionary technology that could change the world's energy economy overnight. That's when he noticed the woman in the elegant rose-colored blazer sitting alone in the corner booth. Jessica Martinez looked exactly like the brilliant girl he'd fallen in love with at Riverside High School 15 years ago, but with the polished confidence that spoke of boardrooms and corporate success. Her platinum blonde hair was styled in a sophisticated cut, and she wore jewelry that caught the morning light expensively. Most telling were the 2 men in business suits positioned strategically near the diner's entrance. Not quite bodyguards, but clearly security. Emma followed his gaze with the observational skills that made her such an exceptional problem solver. "Daddy, why is that pretty lady looking at us like she knows something important?" Before Mike could respond, Jessica stood and walked toward their table with the purposeful stride of someone accustomed to making difficult decisions. As she approached, Mike noticed her expression carried both warmth and urgency. "Mike Johnson," she said, her voice carrying the musical quality that had captivated him in high school. "I was hoping I'd find you here." Emma studied Jessica with the same analytical attention she gave to mechanical puzzles. "You're not here by accident, are you?" Jessica's eyebrows rose with surprise at Emma's directness. "No, sweetheart, I'm not. You must be Emma. I've heard some very interesting things about your work with engines." Mike felt his protective instincts surge. Jessica, what's going on? How do you know about Emma's projects? And who are those men with you? Jessica gestured toward the empty space beside Emma. May I sit? What I have to tell you is going to be difficult to believe. As Jessica settled into the booth, Mike noticed how her presence seemed to shift the diner's atmosphere. Her security team had positioned themselves with clear views of all entrances, their trained alertness creating an undercurrent of tension among the Saturday morning crowd. Mike, I'm Jessica Martinez, CEO of SolarWind Technologies. We develop renewable energy solutions for automotive and industrial applications. Jessica's voice carried the weight of someone delivering crucial information. 3 weeks ago, our research division detected some very unusual patent searches and technical inquiries related to water-based fuel systems. Emma leaned forward with interest. What kind of inquiries? The kind that suggested someone had successfully solved the catalyst stability problem that's been stumping our best engineers for 5 years. Mike's blood ran cold. Jessica, how could you possibly know about Emma's work? We've been building in our garage. No one else has seen it. That's where you're wrong. Jessica pulled out her phone and showed them a photograph that made Mike's heart stop. It was Emma's engine design, clearly photographed through their garage window. Mike, your daughter's invention has attracted attention from some very powerful people. The wrong kind of attention. Emma studied the photograph with scientific curiosity rather than fear. Someone's been watching our garage. That's why the motion sensor light kept activating at night, isn't it, Daddy? The realization hit Mike like a physical blow. The mysterious technical problems his shop had been experiencing, the sudden financial difficulties that had contributed to his divorce, the strange phone calls and equipment failures. It hadn't been coincidence. Emma, Jessica continued gently, can you tell me about your engine? How does it work? Emma's face lit up with the joy she always showed when discussing mechanical systems. It's really not that complicated once you understand the molecular breakdown. See, most people think you need expensive platinum catalysts for efficient electrolysis, but I figured out that certain combinations of common metals work just as well if you control the electrical timing precisely. She began sketching on another napkin with remarkable speed and accuracy. The water enters here, gets split into hydrogen and oxygen using my custom electrolysis chamber design. Then the hydrogen gets injected into a modified combustion engine, while the oxygen gets captured for other uses. The only byproduct is water vapor, so it's completely clean. But I need Daddy's strong hands to build what I design, because the parts are too heavy for me. Jessica stared at the diagram with professional amazement. Emma, automotive engineers with decades of experience haven't been able to solve the efficiency problems you just described. How did you figure this out? It's by watching Daddy work and asking lots of questions. He knows everything about how engines really work, not just the theory from books. Plus, I read all his technical manuals and watched YouTube videos about chemistry and physics. But I'm just the brain. Daddy's the hands that make it all real. Mike felt a mixture of overwhelming pride and terrifying concern. His daughter had casually revolutionized automotive technology using spare parts and pure curiosity, while he provided the skilled craftsmanship to bring her visions to life. Jessica, why are you really here? What kind of attention has Emma's work attracted? Jessica's expression grew grave. 3 major oil companies have been monitoring patent databases and research inquiries for technologies that could threaten their industry. When Emma's work surfaced, they didn't see a brilliant child's invention. They saw an existential threat to trillion-dollar profits. Emma looked up from her sketching. The oil companies don't want cars to run on water because then people wouldn't need to buy gasoline anymore. That's exactly right, sweetheart. And they have resources and connections that most people can't imagine. Mike's mechanic mind began connecting troubling dots. The divorce, Sarah's sudden decision to leave, the custody battle, the financial pressure on my shop, all orchestrated to destabilize your family and create leverage over Emma's invention, Jessica confirmed. Mike, they've been planning this for months. Emma set down her crayon and looked directly at Jessica. That's why you're here, isn't it? They're trying to hurt your company too. Jessica nodded with respect for Emma's insight. Solar Wind Technologies has been developing competing clean energy solutions. When word got out about a functional water engine, certain parties decided we were becoming too much of a threat to existing power structures. Across the diner, Mike noticed one of Jessica's security team speaking urgently into an earpiece. The man's expression had shifted from alert to concerned. "Jessica, I think we have a problem." The security officer approached their table discreetly. Jessica checked her phone, and her face went pale. "Mike, we need to leave. Now." "Why? What's happening?" Emma had been quietly observing this exchange with the focused attention she gave to complex mechanical problems. Suddenly, she grabbed Mike's wrist. "Daddy, look at the parking lot." Through the diner's window, Mike could see 3 black SUVs had surrounded Jessica's car. Men in expensive suits were positioning themselves around the building with military precision. "They found us," Jessica whispered. Emma stood up with the calm determination that characterized her approach to every challenge. "Daddy, remember when you taught me that every problem has a solution if you understand how all the parts work together?" "Yes, sweetheart." Emma smiled with confidence that seemed impossible for someone her age. "I think it's time to show them what our engine can really do." But as they prepared to leave, Mike realized the men outside weren't just interested in Emma's invention, they were interested in Emma herself. The tension in Harper's diner was palpable as Jessica's security team coordinated their next move while keeping watch on the black SUVs surrounding the building. Emma, however, seemed remarkably calm as she continued sketching mechanical diagrams, occasionally glancing toward the parking lot with the analytical gaze of someone solving a complex puzzle. "Daddy," Emma said quietly, "the men outside aren't just oil company people, are they?" Mike followed her subtle gesture toward the lead SUV, where a tall man in an expensive suit was speaking into a satellite phone while reviewing what appeared to be technical documents. Even from a distance, Mike could see photographs and diagrams spread across the vehicle's hood. "What makes you say that, sweetheart?" "Because oil company executives would want to buy or bury my invention. These people look like they want to understand exactly how it works." Emma's voice carried the matter-of-fact tone she used when explaining obvious mechanical principles. "That means they're planning to replicate it." Jessica leaned forward with growing concern. "Emma, how much detail did you document about your engine's construction?" Emma's response sent chills through Mike's body. "I wrote everything down, Daddy, just like you taught me. Complete blueprints, material specifications, assembly instructions, and performance data. It's all in my engineering notebook." "Where is that notebook now?" "At home, in my bedroom. But I also uploaded digital copies to 3 different cloud storage accounts because you said important work should always be backed up." Mike felt his world spinning. His 7-year-old daughter had not only designed revolutionary technology, she had documented it with professional thoroughness and stored it online where it could be accessed by anyone with sufficient hacking skills. Jessica was already on her phone, speaking in urgent technical language to what sounded like a cybersecurity team. "We need immediate lockdown on all cloud accounts associated with Emma Johnson. Priority Alpha protocols." Through the diner window, Mike watched as more vehicles arrived, not more SUVs, but utility vans equipped with sophisticated electronic equipment. Whatever was happening had evolved beyond simple corporate espionage. Emma tugged on Mike's sleeve. "Daddy, I think I made a mistake." "What kind of mistake, sweetheart?" "When I was researching catalyst materials online, I joined some engineering forums to ask questions. I might have shared too much information about my project." Mike's stomach dropped. "What forums, Emma?" "Automotive innovation groups, clean energy research communities, mechanical engineering student networks." Emma's voice grew smaller as she realized the implications. "I was excited about my discoveries, so I posted progress updates and asked for feedback from other engineers." Jessica finished her phone call and turned back to them with barely controlled urgency. Mike, Emma's online activity has been monitored by multiple parties for at least 6 weeks. Every technical detail she shared, every question she asked, every breakthrough she documented, it's all been catalogued and analyzed. By who? Oil companies, government agencies, foreign intelligence services, automotive manufacturers, and independent corporate espionage operations. Jessica's voice carried the weight of someone delivering devastating news. Emma's invention isn't just revolutionary, it's potentially the most valuable piece of intellectual property on the planet right now. Emma looked up at the adults around her with eyes that seemed far too old for her 7 years. I just wanted to build something cool with Daddy. I didn't know it would cause so much trouble. Mike knelt beside Emma's chair, taking her small hands in his. Sweetheart, you didn't cause any trouble. You created something amazing with your brilliant mind, and I was honored to help build it with my hands. The trouble comes from people who care more about money than about helping the world. But now they want to take it away, don't they? Before Mike could answer, Mrs. Harper approached their table with obvious concern. Folks, I hate to interrupt, but those men outside are asking questions about you. They showed me badges and said they were investigating some kind of security matter. Jessica's expression hardened. What kind of badges? Who said they were from the Department of Energy. But honey, I've lived in this town for 60 years, and federal agents don't usually travel in groups of 12. Emma had been listening to this exchange while continuing to work on her mechanical drawings. Suddenly, she looked up with an expression that made Mike's heart race. Daddy, what if we gave them what they want? Emma, we're not giving anyone your invention. Not the real invention, Emma said with a smile that carried hints of strategic thinking that belonged to someone much older. What if we gave them fake plans? Plans that look right but have critical errors that would make the engine fail. Jessica stared at Emma with professional amazement. You're talking about disinformation, creating convincing technical documentation that leads competitors down dead ends. Exactly. I could make blueprints that show 90% correct information, but with subtle mistakes in the catalyst timing and electrolysis chamber design. Anyone who tried to build from those plans would get close, but never achieve stable operation. Mike realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. His 7-year-old daughter wasn't just a mechanical prodigy. She was displaying strategic intelligence that bordered on tactical genius. But Emma, creating fake plans would take time. And we need to get out of here now. Emma held up her napkin sketches. I've been working on decoy designs this whole time. See? These diagrams look sophisticated, but the fuel injection timing is wrong, and the catalyst mixture ratios would cause system failure after about 20 minutes of operation. Jessica looked at Emma's drawings with the appreciation of someone who understood both the technical complexity and the strategic implications. Emma, you've been planning this contingency from the moment you realized we were being watched. I learned from Daddy that good mechanics always have backup plans when they're working on complicated problems. Mike felt an overwhelming surge of pride mixed with protective terror. His daughter wasn't just brilliant, she was developing the kind of survival instincts that suggested she understood the danger they were facing better than the adults around her. Jessica's phone buzzed with an urgent message. She read it quickly, her expression growing more serious. Mike, my cybersecurity team, found Emma's cloud storage accounts. The good news is that we've secured them before anyone else could access the real technical data. The bad news is that multiple parties were actively trying to hack those accounts. How multiple? 7 different intrusion attempts from 6 different countries. Emma's water engine has attracted international attention. Emma looked up from her fake diagrams. Are any of them good guys? Jessica considered this question carefully. Some might be research institutions or environmental organizations who want to help develop clean technology. But most are probably competitors who want to either steal your work or prevent it from reaching the market. Ooh! Through the diner window, Mike could see the men from the SUVs had begun moving toward the building's entrances. Whatever patience they'd been exercising was clearly running out. "Daddy," Emma said with quiet confidence, "I think it's time to test our real engine." "What do you mean?" Emma smiled with the fearless determination that had characterized every challenge she'd ever faced. "Our car is in the parking lot. Daddy helped me install my water engine design in it last week. I wanted to surprise you with how well we work together." Mike stared at his daughter in amazement. "Emma, when did we modify our car's engine?" "Remember last Tuesday when I asked you to help me with that special project? You thought we were just practicing with spare parts, but we were actually modifying our real car. Your strong hands did all the heavy work while I directed the technical details." Jessica leaned forward with intense interest. "Emma, you're saying our escape vehicle is powered by the technology everyone's trying to steal?" "Yes, and it's really, really fast when Daddy drives it." As the men outside began entering the diner, Emma gathered her sketches and looked at her father with complete trust. "Daddy, do you want to see what we built together?" Mike realized that everything in his life had been leading to this moment. His mechanical expertise, Emma's genius, their shared love of solving impossible problems, it had all culminated in his 7-year-old daughter casually revolutionizing the automotive industry. Let's go show the world what the Johnson family can do. But as they prepared for their escape, Mike had no idea that Emma's water engine was just the beginning of what his remarkable daughter had been planning. The escape from Harper's diner was unlike anything Mike had ever experienced. Emma led them through the kitchen to a service entrance she'd apparently mapped during previous visits, displaying the same methodical approach she applied to all her engineering projects. As they emerged into the back alley, Mike's jaw dropped at what he saw in their parking space. Their modest 2018 Honda Civic looked exactly the same from the outside, but Emma had clearly been busy directing modifications. Additional gauges were mounted discreetly on the dashboard, and Mike could hear the subtle hum of the electrical systems he had installed under Emma's guidance. "Sweetheart, remind me exactly how we modified our car's engine." Emma was already climbing into the passenger seat, since at 7 she was too small to drive safely. "Remember last Tuesday when I asked you to help me with that special project? Your experienced hands did all the actual mechanical work while I directed every technical detail. I designed everything. You built everything." Jessica slid into the back seat while her security team flanked the vehicle. "Mike, I think we need to trust Emma's engineering skills right now." Mike started the engine, which sounded remarkably similar to the original Honda, but with a cleaner, more efficient note. Emma pointed to her additional gauges with pride. "See, Daddy, we're running on pure water right now. The system automatically optimizes fuel mixture based on performance requirements, just like I calculated." Through the alley, Mike could see the men from the black SUVs had discovered their exit route and were moving to intercept them. Emma calmly adjusted some controls on the dashboard and looked at her father with complete confidence. "Daddy, you might want to buckle your seatbelt. Our water engine produces about 40% more horsepower than the original system." What happened next defied everything Mike thought he knew about automotive performance. As he accelerated smoothly out of the alley, instead of the gradual pickup he expected from their family sedan, the car responded like a high-performance sports vehicle. They merged into traffic with authority that drew impressed looks from other drivers. "This is impossible," Mike breathed, watching their speedometer climb while the engine remained remarkably quiet. "Emma, how did you achieve this level of performance enhancement?" "Water combustion produces different exhaust characteristics than gasoline, so I was able to optimize the entire system for efficiency instead of waste heat management. Plus, the electric assist components generate power during deceleration, so we're actually gaining energy in stop-and-go traffic, but it only works because you built everything exactly the way I designed it." Jessica was monitoring something on her phone while speaking to her security team through an earpiece. "Mike, we're being followed by multiple vehicles, but Emma's modifications seem to have given us a significant performance advantage." Emma checked her mirrors, with the systematic thoroughness Mike recognized from her approach to mechanical problems. The SUVs are trying to box us in, but their vehicles are designed for intimidation, not speed. We should be able to outmaneuver them if we take Highway 49 toward the industrial district. Why the industrial district? Because that's where Mr. Patterson's testing facility is located. He's been helping me with advanced materials research for our engine components. Mike felt another shock of realization. Emma, how many adults have been helping with your engine project? Just Mr. Patterson from the materials lab, Dr. Kim from the community college physics department, and Mrs. Rodriguez, who helped me understand the environmental impact calculations. Emma navigated their route with supernatural confidence in Mike's driving abilities. Oh, and Jimmy from the auto parts store who got us the specialized electrical components. Jessica stared at Emma in amazement. You've been running an independent research and development operation with adult professional consultants. I had questions that required expertise Daddy and I didn't have access to, so I found people who could help and convinced them to let me learn from their knowledge, while Daddy provided the hands-on construction skills. Mike realized his daughter had been conducting graduate-level engineering research, while he thought they were just playing with spare parts in their garage. Emma, what exactly did you tell these people about our project? The truth, that I was working on clean energy automotive applications with my daddy and needed guidance to ensure safety and environmental compliance. Emma directed Mike to take an exit ramp. Adults are more willing to help when they understand you're trying to solve real problems, not just playing around. Through the rear window, Mike could see their pursuers had fallen behind, their heavier vehicles unable to match the modified Honda's acceleration and handling characteristics. Daddy, there's something else I need to tell you about our engine. Mike was almost afraid to ask. What else? The water fuel system isn't the only modification I designed and you built. I also planned solar collection panels integrated into the body panels, regenerative braking that feeds power back to the electrical systems, and a computer management system that optimizes performance based on driving conditions. Jessica turned in her seat to stare at Emma. You essentially created a hybrid vehicle that's more advanced than anything currently in production. It seemed logical to integrate multiple efficiency improvements rather than focusing on just one aspect of performance. But it only worked because Daddy's hands could make my ideas real. They pulled into the parking lot of Patterson Materials Research, where Mike confidently maneuvered their car into a space near a loading dock. Mike noticed several other vehicles already present. Not the black SUVs they'd been fleeing, but cars that belonged to the professionals Emma had mentioned. Are they expecting us? Mike asked. Emma nodded as Mike turned off the engine. I sent messages to my advisory team when I realized we were being followed. Dr. Kim brought her documentation about the physics calculations. Mr. Patterson has materials samples and stress test results, and Mrs. Rodriguez prepared environmental impact reports. Emma, you have an advisory team? Daddy, I couldn't develop revolutionary technology without proper scientific validation and safety protocols. That would be irresponsible. But I needed you to build everything because my 7-year-old hands aren't strong enough for the real mechanical work. As they stepped out of the car, Mike saw his daughter's advisory team approaching. Dr. Kim from the community college, a distinguished Korean woman in her 50s, Mr. Patterson, a burly man who ran the materials testing facility, Mrs. Rodriguez, Emma's second-grade teacher, and Jimmy from the auto parts store, grinning with obvious pride. Dr. Kim spoke first. Emma called an emergency meeting. She said corporate interests were trying to suppress her work before it could be properly documented and published. Mr. Patterson held up a thick folder. We've been conducting independent verification testing on Emma's engine components for 2 months. The performance specifications are extraordinary. Mrs. Rodriguez looked at Mike with an expression that mixed apology with amazement. Mike, I hope you're not upset that we didn't tell you about Emma's research project. She asked us to keep it confidential until she was ready to surprise you. Jimmy laughed and shook his head. Mr. Johnson, your little girl has been ordering automotive parts, like she was building a Formula One race car. I figured you knew what she was up to. Mike looked at Emma, who was standing surrounded by her team of adult professionals, and realized he had fundamentally underestimated his daughter's capabilities. This wasn't just a brilliant child playing with engines. This was a 7-year-old who had assembled a research team, developed revolutionary technology, and created contingency plans for industrial espionage. Jessica's phone buzzed with an urgent message. She read it quickly, her expression growing concerned. Emma, how much do these people know about your engine's real capabilities? Everything. I believe in complete transparency with scientific collaborators. Then we have a bigger problem. Because the people chasing us weren't just trying to steal your invention. They were trying to recruit your entire team. Emma looked up at her father with eyes that carried wisdom far beyond her 7 years. Daddy, I think it's time to tell the whole world about what we built together. Because if we don't, someone else will try to claim they invented it first. Mike realized that his daughter's next decision would determine not just their family's future, but potentially the future of transportation technology worldwide. And he had never been more proud or more terrified in his entire life. The emergency meeting at Patterson Materials Research had been going for an hour when Mike suddenly doubled over with a violent coughing fit that left specks of blood on his handkerchief. Emma immediately rushed to his side, her 7-year-old face filled with concern that made Mike's heart break. Daddy, you've been coughing like this for weeks. Why won't you go to the doctor? Mike looked at his daughter's worried expression and realized he couldn't hide the truth any longer. The persistent cough, the shortness of breath, the weight loss he'd tried to conceal. Emma was too observant not to notice. Doctor. Kim, who had medical training before switching to physics, approached with professional concern. Mike, that cough doesn't sound normal. How long have you been experiencing these symptoms? About 3 months, Mike admitted, his voice hoarse. Started around the same time Emma and I began working on her engine project. Duh, Jessica looked up from coordinating with her security team. Mike, with everything that's happening, you need to be at full strength. We should get you checked out. Emma tugged on her father's sleeve with the persistent determination she applied to all important matters. Daddy, remember when you taught me that ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away? You said good mechanics always diagnose issues before they get worse. Mike knelt down to Emma's eye level, seeing his own stubborn curiosity reflected in her bright blue eyes. You're right, sweetheart. I've been avoiding something I should have faced weeks ago. Mr. Patterson, who had known Mike for years through automotive supply connections, spoke with gentle concern. Mike, there's an urgent care clinic 2 blocks from here. Dr. Williams there specializes in occupational health issues. He's seen a lot of mechanics over the years. Within 30 minutes, they were sitting in Dr. Williams's examination room while Emma held Mike's hand and listened with scientific attention to the medical assessment. The X-rays and blood tests painted a picture that Mike had been dreading, but somehow expecting. Mr. Johnson, I'm afraid the imaging shows significant lung damage, consistent with prolonged exposure to automotive solvents and particulates, Dr. Williams said, with the gentle directness of someone who had delivered similar news many times. The mass in your right lung, combined with your symptoms, suggests advanced lung cancer, likely caused by occupational exposure. Emma's grip on Mike's hand tightened, but she didn't cry. Instead, she asked the question that demonstrated her remarkable maturity. How long does Daddy have? Doctor. Williams looked at Emma with surprise at her composed directness. Sweetheart, that's a very adult question for someone your age. I'm 7, but I understand that some problems can't be fixed, Emma replied with heartbreaking wisdom. I just need to know how much time we have left for our projects. Mike felt tears streaming down his face as he realized his daughter was already planning how to make their remaining time together meaningful. Based on the progression, I'd estimate somewhere between 2 to 6 months. depending on how well your father responds to treatment options, Dr. Williams said gently. Emma's composure finally cracked, tears streaming down her face as she threw her arms around Mike's neck with desperate intensity. "No, Daddy, you can't leave me. Who's going to teach me about carburetors? Who's going to help me when I can't reach the high tools? Who's going to be proud of me when I fix something hard?" Her voice broke with the raw anguish of a child facing the incomprehensible reality of losing her hero. After several minutes of sobbing, she pulled back and wiped her eyes with fierce determination. "But if that's all the time we have, then I'm going to make the best engine in the whole world, so you know I learned everything you taught me before you have to go." Jessica had been quietly coordinating legal arrangements during the medical consultation. "Mike, we need to discuss Emma's care. If you're comfortable with it, I'd like to explore becoming her legal guardian. My resources could ensure she has everything she needs to continue her work and her education." Mike looked at Jessica with gratitude that transcended their complicated history. "Jessica, that would mean everything to me. Emma needs someone who understands her gifts and will protect her dreams." As they returned to Patterson Materials research, Emma was unusually quiet, processing the overwhelming information with the methodical approach she applied to complex mechanical problems. Finally, she spoke with a clarity that broke Mike's heart. "Daddy, I don't care about oil companies or changing the world. I just want you to see our engine work perfectly. I want you to be proud that I learned to improve something that already existed, just like you taught me." Mike pulled Emma close, breathing in the scent of her hair and committing every detail of this moment to memory. "Sweetheart, I've been proud of you since the day you were born. The engine is just proof of what I've always known. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to." Over the next 6 weeks, Mike and Emma worked together with desperate urgency, but their roles had always been clearly defined. Emma was the brilliant mind who designed and directed, while Mike was the skilled hands who assembled and constructed what she envisioned. Emma would point and explain exactly where each component should go, how the connections needed to be made, and what adjustments were required, but her small 7-year-old hands lacked the strength and dexterity to manipulate heavy engine parts or operate power tools safely. Mike had always been her hands, following her engineering genius with the practiced skill of decades in automotive repair. She wasn't trying to revolutionize transportation or defeat corporate conspiracies. She was simply trying to create something beautiful with her father before it was too late, knowing that without his strong hands to build what her mind conceived, her dreams would remain forever trapped in blueprints and sketches. The cancer progressed quickly. Mike's strength faded as Emma's engine designs reached completion. Their roles gradually reversed, with Emma taking care of practical matters, while Mike provided guidance and encouragement from his increasingly frequent resting periods. "Emma, bring me the final performance data," Mike said from his chair in the garage, where he spent most afternoons watching her explain her latest improvements. His voice was weak, but his eyes still sparkled with pride when he watched his daughter solve engineering challenges. Emma presented her notebook with meticulous documentation. "Our engine runs for 4 hours on 2 cups of water, produces 0 emissions, and operates at 67% efficiency. That's better than any gasoline engine ever built, Daddy." Mike reviewed her work with professional appreciation, amazed by the sophisticated engineering his 7-year-old daughter had mastered. "Emma, this is extraordinary work. You've improved on technology that engineers have been developing for over a century." "I learned from the best teacher in the world," Emma replied, settling into her father's lap for what would be their last technical discussion. 3 days later, Mike passed away peacefully in his sleep, with Emma holding his hand and Jessica maintaining vigil beside them. His final words had been, "Emma, remember that the best inventions come from love, not ambition." The funeral was attended by their small community of friends and Emma's advisory team. Emma stood beside the casket with dry eyes and unwavering composure, speaking about her father with wisdom that amazed everyone present. My daddy taught me that we can always improve something that already existed, but he also taught me that the most important improvements come from wanting to help people we love. I built my engine because I wanted to make him proud. Now I know he was already proud of me, just for being his daughter. In the weeks following Mike's death, Emma retreated completely from the garage and all mechanical work. Jessica, now her legal guardian, found her spending most of her time reading her children's Bible and sitting quietly in her bedroom, staring out the window with the 1,000-yard gaze of someone processing unimaginable loss. "Emma, you haven't touched any of your tools in over a month," Jessica said gently, sitting on Emma's bed beside her. "I can't," Emma replied with the flat affect of deep grief. "Every wrench, every bolt, every piece of equipment reminds me that Daddy isn't here to help me build things anymore. My ideas are stuck in my head now because I don't have his strong hands to make them real." Jessica understood that Emma's paralysis wasn't just emotional, it was practical. Without Mike's physical abilities to complement her intellectual gifts, Emma felt genuinely helpless to continue their shared work. "What if we found you some tools designed for smaller hands? Or maybe older children who could help with the heavier work?" Emma shook her head sadly. "It wouldn't be the same. Daddy and I were a team. He understood exactly what I needed before I even asked. Other people would just be other people." For the first time since Mike's death, Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Jessica, I keep praying to God to bring Daddy back, but I know that's not how it works. So now I just pray for God to help me understand why he had to take away the only person who really understood me." 6 months after Mike's death, Emma had grown quieter and more introspective, spending her days in school and her evenings reading scripture and writing letters to her father in a journal that Jessica had given her. The brilliant, ambitious child who had once dreamed of impressing her father with mechanical innovations had transformed into a gentle, sad girl who found comfort in prayer and simple routines. Jessica watched Emma color quietly at the kitchen table, her movements careful and deliberate in the way of someone who had learned that life could change in an instant. The garage remained exactly as Mike had left it, but Emma rarely entered anymore, except to sit in his chair and remember better times. "How was school today, sweetheart?" Jessica asked, settling beside Emma with her own cup of coffee. Emma looked up from her coloring book, simple flowers and butterflies that seemed more appropriate for a much younger child. "Mrs. Rodriguez says I'm doing well in my regular classes. I told her I don't want to be in the gifted program anymore." "Why not?" "Because being smart didn't save Daddy. And all that knowledge just sits in my head now, with nowhere to go." Emma's voice carried the weary acceptance of someone far older than her 9 years. "I'd rather learn about normal things that normal kids learn about." Jessica felt her heart break as she watched Emma deliberately limiting herself, choosing simplicity over the brilliant complexity that had once defined her. "Emma, your father would want you to use your gifts, even if they're different gifts than you shared with him." Emma set down her crayon and looked at Jessica with eyes that had seen too much loss for someone so young. "Jessica, I pray every night that God will help me understand why Daddy had to go away. Sometimes I think maybe God needed him for something more important than staying here with me." The acceptance in Emma's voice was perhaps the saddest thing Jessica had ever heard. Dr. Kim, who visited occasionally to check on Emma's emotional state, spoke with Jessica privately about her concerns. Emma's retreat from intellectual challenges isn't necessarily unhealthy grief processing, but I worry about her long-term development. She's essentially chosen to suppress her abilities rather than find new ways to express them. What do you recommend? Patience, mostly. Some children need to step away from the sources of their grief before they can find healthy ways to reconnect with their passions. Emma may rediscover her love of engineering someday, but it will have to be on her own terms. As autumn arrived, Emma had settled into a quiet routine that balanced school with her deep relationship with God and the small family that Jessica had become to her. She attended church every Sunday, participated in children's Bible study, and spent hours each week writing in her prayer journal. The brilliant child prodigy, who had once commanded the attention of automotive engineers and government officials, had chosen a different path, one of faith, family, and accepting the limitations that loss had imposed on her young life. Emma, the University of Michigan, sent another letter about early admission, Jessica mentioned one evening as they prepared dinner together. Emma shook her head with gentle finality. "I'm not interested in universities or special programs anymore, Jessica. I just want to live a normal life and stay close to the people I love." Jessica understood that Emma's retreat from intellectual achievement was her way of protecting herself from further loss. By choosing simplicity over brilliance, routine over innovation, Emma had found a form of peace that academic success could never provide. "That's perfectly okay, sweetheart. There's nothing wrong with choosing a quiet life." Emma smiled, the first genuine smile Jessica had seen from her in months. "Daddy used to say that the most important job in the world was taking care of the people you love. I think I understand that better now." Uday, as winter approached, Emma faced the reality that she would carry her grief forever, but she had learned to carry it alongside faith and love rather than letting it consume her completely. 3 years after Mike's death, Emma had grown into a quiet 12-year-old who carried her grief with the gentle acceptance of someone who had learned to find God in her darkest moments. The garage remained exactly as Mike had left it, but Emma rarely entered except to sit in his chair and pray. Jessica watched Emma read her Bible at the kitchen table, marveling at how her ward had chosen faith over achievement, peace over recognition. The brilliant child who had once designed revolutionary engines now found her greatest comfort in scripture and simple family routines. "How are you feeling today, sweetheart?" Jessica asked, settling beside Emma with her morning coffee. Emma looked up from her devotional reading, her eyes carrying a sadness that had softened but never disappeared. "I miss Daddy every day, but I think I'm learning to understand that missing someone doesn't mean God made a mistake. It just means we loved someone worth missing." Jessica felt tears forming as she listened to Emma's mature perspective on loss and faith. The child who had once commanded the attention of government officials and corporate executives now spoke most eloquently about prayer and family. Mrs. Rodriguez, who continued to visit regularly, often marveled at Emma's transformation. "She's found a kind of peace that most adults never achieve," she told Jessica privately. "It's beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time." Emma attended regular public school, participated in church activities, and spent her free time reading, writing in her prayer journal, and helping Jessica with simple household tasks. The garage remained untouched, a shrine to the partnership she and Mike had shared. "Emma, do you ever think about engineering anymore?" Dr. Kim asked during one of her periodic check-ins. Emma considered the question seriously. "Sometimes I remember things Daddy taught me, and I feel grateful that we had that time together. But those days feel like they belong to a different person, someone who thought being smart was the most important thing in the world. And now I think loving people and trusting God are more important than being brilliant. Daddy's gone, but I still have love, I still have faith, and I still have Jessica, who takes care of me even though she didn't have to." As Emma's 13th birthday approached, she made a decision that would define her path forward. Instead of pursuing academic opportunities or returning to engineering, she chose to focus on the simple gifts that loss had taught her to treasure. "Jessica, I want to be baptized on my birthday," Emma announced one evening as they prepared dinner together. "I want to make a public commitment to the faith that's carried me through losing Daddy." Jessica smiled through her tears, understanding that Emma had found her own way to honor Mike's memory. Not through revolutionary technology, but through the gentle strength that comes from trusting God, even when life doesn't make sense. The baptism was held at their small community church, attended by the handful of people who had supported Emma through her darkest period. As Emma emerged from the water, she spoke words that would stay with everyone present forever. "I want to thank God for giving me the best father in the world, even if it was only for 7 years. And I want to thank him for teaching me that love doesn't end when someone goes to heaven. It just gets deeper and quieter and more precious. After the ceremony, Emma and Jessica drove to Riverside Cemetery, where Mike rested under his simple granite headstone. Emma knelt beside the grave, placing fresh wildflowers she had picked that morning. "Hi, Daddy. I got baptized today, just like you always said I should when I was ready. I wanted to tell you that I'm okay. I'm still sad about losing you, and I probably always will be, but I'm not angry anymore. I understand now that God didn't take you away from me. He just needed you for something else, and someday I'll understand what that was." Emma paused, her voice carrying both sadness and profound acceptance. "I still dream about engines sometimes, and I remember all the things you taught me about improving what already exists. But mostly, I think about how you taught me that love is more important than being smart, and that taking care of people matters more than impressing them." She stood up slowly, brushing dirt from her knees with the same practical efficiency Mike had always demonstrated. "Thank you, God, for giving me the best father in the world. Thank you for teaching me that some people love us so much that they keep teaching us even after they're gone. And thank you for helping me understand that missing someone forever isn't a weakness. It's proof that we were blessed to have them at all." As they walked back to the car, Emma took one last look at the headstone. "Jessica, I know I'll never stop missing him. And you know what? I think that's exactly how it should be." Jessica nodded, understanding that Emma had found a way to carry Mike's love forward without trying to replace what they had shared. "Your father would be so proud of the person you've become, Emma, not because of your intelligence, but because of your heart." Emma smiled with quiet contentment. "Every time I walk past the garage, I can still smell him. Coffee, motor oil, and that hand soap he used after working on engines. Sometimes I sit in his chair and close my eyes, and for just a minute it feels like he's still there, still proud of me, still teaching me that the most important improvements happen in here." She touched her chest. "Not out there in the world." Today, as they drove home toward the house where Emma would continue growing up under Jessica's loving care, she felt complete peace, knowing that her father's greatest legacy wasn't any engine or invention. It was raising a daughter who understood that love transcends loss, that faith provides strength when intelligence fails, and that some people are so precious that missing them becomes a privilege rather than a burden. Emma Johnson would live the rest of her life carrying both grief and gratitude, never again pursuing the brilliance that had once defined her, but finding instead the deeper wisdom that comes from learning to trust God's plan, even when it breaks your heart. In the garage that still smelled like her father's presence, surrounded by tools she would never again use, Emma had discovered that the most revolutionary act of all was simply choosing to love and be loved, completely and forever.